Hi, and welcome to Mad Medicine with Miss P. And don't adjust your cameras. I got a bouffant thing going on back there. It's not my party hair. It's just I don't know. I put my clip high anyway. Usually it's that is making it look like I have something weird in my hair, but that's just my cowboy. Anyway, we're going to shift gears a little bit today, real quickly, and just talk about instead of the heart, we're going to run around the corner to your butt. So we're going to talk about some laxatives and stool softeners. Those are much more important than you think they are. And it's a little unsettling that, especially in the nursing homes and stuff, we just kind of pass that out like it's no big deal. Like, oh, they haven't had a bowel movement in 2 days, so there's a standing order to give Colace or, Miralax or MOM or whatever it is. I don't think you really understand the importance of pooping, and not just that cute little umzu guy that pops up on my screen regularly who needs a good shave and maybe a shower, but it's really vital that you poop every day. You know, you're supposed to poop after every meal. Did you know that? You're supposed to poop after every meal. Basically, it's what's called a gastrocolic reflex. Sorry. That reflex is literally your colon saying, oh no, more is coming, I better evacuate. But there's so much stool trapped in our bowels on a regular basis. And that's why I finally fell for the umzu guy and I ordered my zoo poo, and I'm terrified to do it because I work. So I don't know when it's going to kick in or how it's going to work. But I figured if I take it on a Friday night, you're supposed to take it at night. So I'm going to take it on a Friday night, not have too much planned that weekend, and then by Monday pray that it's controllable. So we'll see how that goes. But apparently, we're walking around with pounds and pounds of stool in our colon. Now imagine these 70, 80, 90-year-old people lying still in bed all day, every day. I'm a huge advocate for making these people get active, drink, and eat fiber. And they're not. You've seen the things they're eating, especially our diabetics with their windowsill filled with candy and orange slices. Oh my gosh, with the orange slices. They're in every can, in every windowsill. But if they're not being active, then we should be doing some sort of abdominal massage, or even, trying to reposition them more frequently than every 2 hours. And I know it's impossible. I realize that. I recognize the reality of long-term care, the lack of staff we have, and what's realistic, and the fact that you guys need a break. You need to sit down for a few minutes in a cooler room and, breathe for a minute. We get that. But we should have just like a poop team come in. Like if there was like a bowel movement team that could come in and go room to room and do some abdominal massage, hold the straw and make them drink. I know you all passing ice. I talk about this all the time. We're passing ice at 2:00, and you pour out the old ice and put the new ice in, and it's at the bedside, and then tomorrow it's full also. So if we're not holding the straws, they're not drinking. And if you want to poop, those are the only three things you need. You need eat. But to poop, you have to drink, you have to increase your fiber intake, and you have to be active. And these people aren't doing it. They're not drinking enough, and they're not pooping like they should. So when you go 2 or 3 days without pooping, you think, no big deal because we're so desensitized to it, we're so used to it. It is vital that you poop after every meal. It is more than vital that you poop every day. And I know that they're not. So you have to realize how stool softeners versus laxatives or combos of that work. Like Senna Plus, that's a combo. That's Senna and Colace. So when it says 8.6/50, that's 8.6 of Senna and 50 milligrams of Colace. And Colace is usually 100 milligrams. So they kind of put them together to not blow a hole in you, but to get things moving. So the way I think about it, and I know it's gross, but it is what it is. The way I think about it is your colon is so absorbent. The lining of your colon is so absorbent that as poop is going through, I kind of think of it as like the way I see a bag of clothes headed to Goodwill. I'm like, oh God, maybe I'll get into those jeans again. Let me just hold on to those jeans. And that was my mom's blouse. Should I really get rid of it? Let me hold on to that. And that's kind of the colon as things are leaving that you already said you don't need anymore. As it's going through, the colon lining is like, you know what? I'm just gonna grab that molecule of H2O because I may need that later. Or I'm gonna grab that one more nutrient because this is where it's most absorbent. So I'm gonna pull that in and get it directly into the bloodstream, and that's how the colon works in general. So, and your intestines in general, not just the large colon, the intestines in general. So as things are moving through, Colace kind of comes in, or stool softeners kind of comes in, and it sort of hovers over, and it's like, no, 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 this is my poop, and it's going out, and you can't stop it. So it stops the ability of the colon lining to draw fluid back into the vasculature, and it stays in the stool so it can slither out that much easier. And you kind of feel like that's is not really what we need to do for these people. So stool softeners are really good for people who just had rectal surgery, or who have fissures or issues down there, to where you want to make it easy for them to go when they need to go. You don't want to use it as a way to dehydrate the elderly that are lying still and not drinking anyway. So what we really need to do is increase their fluid, fiber, and activity. I write that on the bottom of all of my students' papers. It says FFA, and they're like, what's the FFA? Fluid, fiber, and activity. If you don't increase those three things, these people may never poop. And you just trying to get it out faster decreases their nutrient absorbent and dehydrates them. So to not ever need a stool softener, you need to be holding the straw. And I'm not there to make friends. I will sit them up, and they're like, oh, that hurts my back, I can't sit like this. Well, you're gonna. And I'm gonna sit them up. I'm not gonna torture them, but I'm gonna sit them up, and I'm going to bother the snot out of them until they drink that water. Then I'm gonna come back in a couple hours and do it again. Or I'll have my students do it, or I'll get my techs to do it if I work long-term care. If we all drank our 8 glasses of water a day, and I don't, I try like crazy, but good God, I wish I could drink like Deanna. She is just a drinking fool over there, and it's so important. It's so good for you. You have got to drink the water. There would be like all but 0 disease if we drank the amount of water we truly needed to flush everything out and get things going and let our body work the way it should. It really would. Like, it's a scientific fact. Look it up. I already have. I've researched it, and many different sites will tell you if we just drank the 8 glasses of water, not only would our skin be beautiful, oh my God, I could get rid of cellulite. It would be the most beautiful thing ever. Drink your water. So I try like crazy, but it seems like there's not enough hours in the day, and I don't even drink anything else. I have my, milk with my bone broth. I know it sounds gross, but it's not. I have that in the morning. It's kind of like a little smoothie. It's not bad. And then the rest of the day, I only drink water, but I'm just not drinking enough. And only at night, I drink water. And with my dinner, I drink water. And with lunch, I drink water. I only drink water, but it's still just not enough. You've got to get your 8 glasses in. And if these people were doing it, they would never need a stool softener. Their stool would be soft enough because they had the water. So, as Americans and people in general, we just want to take a pill and make things better. That does not help things the way you might think. So we really need to be drinking some water. And then the laxative, and this is the gross analogy, even more so than the Goodwill poop, the laxatives, they kind of work. I kind of think of poop on that conveyor belt going through your colon, and while your colon lining is pulling things back in, the laxative kind of works as a conveyor belt, a little winder. So the faster they move that conveyor belt and increase peristalsis, the faster things move on and get going and empty out your colon so everything is gone. Well, in that same case is when things are going so quickly, then your body doesn't have the ability to reabsorb all those nutrients. Like 100 years ago or so, I think I learned this in LPN school, they would use castor oil to help you poop, and it eventually killed everybody because all these elderly were taking a spoonful of castor oil, which I can't even, it just must be drinking like motor oil or baby oil. It has to be like tasteless and just a big gob of goo, and they would drink it. Then it would line it would cover the lining of their intestines, and they could no longer absorb nutrients. It kind of worked just like a motor oil that it covering a duck. That duck's never going to fly again. Same kind of thing by it covering the lining of the absorbent colon wall. It couldn't absorb any nutrients, and these people would literally die of malnutrition. I remember learning about that and thinking, okay, note to self, no castor oil. Not that, I think that's something I would do, but that's how absorbent the lining of your intestines is. So when you're rushing things on out, or you're just filling fluid into your stool, neither one of those things are helping the problem. Now, if you need it, do it. You certainly don't want an imperforated bowel, but that's the big risk here, is when you've got stool sitting in your colon for so long, and it's, I'm having a hair day, and it's not, moving on through, well, then there's your big issue, is that you could risk a bowel perforation, which could be fatal. Oh my gosh, what is happening here? It literally could be fatal if you ended up with peritonitis. I mean, imagine stool in your peritoneal cavity. It's filled with organisms, and you're going to end up with peritonitis, and it could be fatal. So it's vital that that stool gets out and doesn't put pressure on your colon so much so that it literally perforates and empties into your peritoneal cavity. That'd be a nightmare, right? But in the same respect, is that if you're blowing things through here, you're kind of defeating the purpose of everything the colon does. Why don't you just bypass it and get an ostomy? So you've got to get these people drinking. You've got to get some abdominal massage if they can't get up and walk around, and you've got to get them eating fiber. You got to talk them into some sort of fiber snack or something additional in their food, because I've seen the plates. They're not eating nearly enough, and some of them don't eat even half their meal. So do what you can to get that going. And that's really all I wanted to talk to you about today, is the laxatives and stool softeners. And this is going to drive me crazy. I got to fix this before I leave the house. What is happening? I got to keep a brush in here. I made myself a note. So instead of leaving, I didn't want to always leave off with a pet peeve because it gets me all riled up, and I'm sure you guys think it's hilarious, but then I'm riled up for the rest of the day. I don't know what's happening there. I can't even fix it anymore. But I will give you a little thing that happened yesterday. And this is a pet peeve of mine also, because I feel like you don't have to be a genius, but you should know about your own body. You should have an idea, especially in your 60s, 70s, 80s. You should have an idea of what surgery you're having done. You should have an idea of surgeries you've had in the past. I'm forever talking, since we're talking about bowels, ironically, these are the two examples I got yesterday. I talked to this guy and I said, what surgery have you had in the past? He's like, well, I had Crohn's disease, so, I had that 3 times. I'm like, that's not a surgery. What surgery did they do? He literally had no idea. And his wife in the background going, you had a bowel resection. And I'm assuming that's what he had, but I also don't know if he had a colostomy. I don't know if he had a colostomy, then it was reversed, and then the second surgery, it was just a bowel resection. I don't know if he just had some sort of, maybe like he had some sort of perforation and they tried to repair that, or maybe he had adhesions and they just removed that. He literally had no idea what surgery he had. He thinks Crohn's disease is a surgery. Like I can't. And then to top it all off, I'm working on my game face, but it's been 30 years, so I don't think I'm going to develop one. This enormous lady's getting ready to roll over onto the table for an injection yesterday, as sweet as she could be. I mean, she was just a doll. She was adorable. She had beautiful nails and she's just cute as she can be, but just a huge abdomen. She says, well, I can't lie on my belly because I have a hernia. I'm like, well, actually the compression on a hernia is how you stop it from strangulating and you requiring surgery. So you should be lying on that as long as it's not something already out and you're putting pressure on. And then she said, I also have a colonoscopy. She has a colonoscopy. I said, do you mean a colostomy? Do you have a bag on your belly? And she's like, mm-hmm. She didn't even hear the difference between a colonoscopy, which is a invasive non-surgical procedure with a camera to look at the lining of your colon, which I'm assuming she's had many of since she's actually has a colostomy. But that's my pet peeve of the day. Have an idea, especially if you've had it for 30 years, have an idea of the difference between a surgery or a procedure and something you actually have on your belly all the time. They're not the same thing. I don't know. I just smiled, and everybody in the room was giggling at me because they knew that my head might explode. I don't think getting older equals getting stupid. You don't have to do that. You don't have to get more stupid the older you get. If anything, you should get smarter. You should have a better idea. And that's what I grew up with. My father and, my mother, my stepmother, my grandmother, they were brilliant. And I don't just mean like brilliant that they somehow knew a little of everything about everything, but I remember my grandmother and I mean, she had to be in her 60s or so, maybe not quite at this age when I was 11, 12, 14, something like that. I remember being forced to watch Jeopardy because we had one TV and she was listening to it while she was cooking in the kitchen. I was sitting on the couch and she's shouting out answers to this show. I don't even understand the question or the answer that she's shouting out the questions to. And I don't understand how one person can be that intelligent. And And my father too. They knew everything, a little of everything about everything. They made a point to learn. And I once had a student ask me that. She's like, well, how do you know this, or how do you know that? And I said, well, because I want to. And she just said, so it's a choice. And I was like, yeah, Cola, I guess that's a good way of putting it. It's a choice. You can choose to want to know what's going on, or you can bumble through life like an idiot who thinks they have a colonoscopy on their abdomen. I don't know. At any rate, face your fears, forget your failures, follow your faith. Love you. See you next time. I bet this doesn't work. I bet this doesn't. You know what? I don't have time for this. I got 100 things to do. I'm just gonna, that's it. You piece of crap. Okay. In my defense, it was like $15 for the whole setup, and this came with it. So that's it. I quit.